Okay, atmosphere. My name is Jeff and I'm an addict. Let's have a moment of silence for still sick and suffering addicts inside and outside the rooms, followed by the Wee version of Serenity Prayer. Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference today. Thank you. I'm just kind of ad-libbing here. They asked me to step in about 10 minutes ago, so we're going to wing it. Got to be spontaneous today. Okay. On behalf of the Cabin Fever Prevention Convention Committee, we would like to thank you for coming and helping us to show that no addict need ever die from the horrors of addiction. The hotel has gone to great lengths to provide us with a clean and friendly space for our convention. We as participants need to act responsibly to ensure welcome return in the future. The convention committee asks that you, 1, please bear in mind that your conduct is a direct reflection on NA. 2, please keep in mind that not everyone wants to stay up all night. We need to have peace and quiet in the hallways between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. and to try to keep the noise in the rooms to a minimum. 3, there will be no gambling or sleeping in the hospitality room or other public areas of the hotel. 4, access to all cabin fever activities require that you wear your name badge. 5, individuals will be responsible for any damage done to their rooms. 6, checkout time is 12 noon. Please use the trash cans and ashtrays. No pictures during meetings, and please ask at other times. In keeping with our traditions and the steps of NA, we ask that you use the NA language of recovery in all that you say at these meetings. That is, we refer to our disease as simply addiction. We identify as simply an addict. We refer to our time in the program as clean time or recovery. This is not done to be different or better than or controversial. This is done because in our first step we have shifted the focus off the specific drug and into the recovery process, leaving us with the single focus necessary for unity. Any labels which imply more than one disease dilute that focus, and some of the unity called in the first tradition is lost. In keeping with our 11th tradition, we do not feel it appropriate to invite media attention. However, there is always the possibility that they will show up. If you are approached by any member of the media, please refer them to the registration table. Okay, and without further ado, can we please have a reader read Who's an Addict? Please come up here. Sit down, stand up. Give a big old hug.
My name is Gary and I'm an addict.
Hey, Gary.
Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know our whole life thinking was centered on drugs in one form or another. The getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. We live to use and use to live. Very simply, an addict is a man or woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grip of a continuing and progressive illness whose ends are always the same. Jail, institutions, and death.
Thank you, Gary. The next reading is, what is the NA program? Why we're here or what? Why we're here? All right. Why we're here. Oh, I'm sorry, Dawn. Vicky.
I'm a grateful recovering addict, Vicky. Hey, Vicky. And this is why we're here. Before coming to the Fellowship of NA, we could not manage our own lives. We could not live and enjoy life as other people do. We had to have something different, and we thought we had found it in drugs. We placed the youth ahead of the welfare of our families, our wives, husbands, and our children. We had to have drugs at all costs. We did many people great harm, but most of all, we harmed ourselves. Through our inability to accept personal responsibilities, we were actually creating our own problems. We seemed to be incapable of facing life on its own terms. Most of us realized that in our addiction, we were slowly committing suicide, but addiction is such a cunning enemy of life that we had lost the power to do anything about it. Many of us ended up in jail or sought help through medicine, religion, or psychiatry. None of these methods were sufficient for us. Our disease always resurfaced or continued to progress until, in desperation, we sought help from each other in Narcotics Anonymous. After coming to NA, we realized we were sick people. We suffered from the disease from which there is no known cure. It can, however, be arrested at some point, and recovery is then possible.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, how it works, please? Thanks for volunteering.
My name's Cammie and I'm an addict. Hi, Cammie. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. 7. We humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. We made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message to addicts and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. This sounds like a big order, and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day, so remember, easy does it. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. 3 of these that are indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the disease of addiction is completely realistic, for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand and help another addict. We believe the sooner we face our problems within our society in everyday living, just that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep from returning to active addiction is not to take that first drug. If you are like us, you know that one is too many and 1,000 never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. Thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs has caused a great many addicts to relapse. Before we came to NA, many of us viewed alcohol separately, but we cannot afford to be confused about this. Alcohol is a drug. We are people with the disease of addiction who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover.
Excellent.
Thanks, Tammy.
Okay, thank you all the readers. This workshop is on the triangle of self-obsession. Right? Right. We're all in the right room then. We're all in the right place. It's a God thing. I'm not going to waste too much time up here. I want to hear the speakers speak. We have 2 speakers today. We have Bill S. from Mid-Missouri and Michelle L. from St. Louis, correct? And Michelle has elected Bill to go first. So without further ado, I'm going to give you Bill.
How much time do I need to fill? 5 minutes?
It's a God thing.
I'm Billy, I'm an addict. I was kind of surprised when I was asked to speak. Actually, I laughed at Ralph when he called me on the phone and said he needed someone to speak on triangle of self-obsession. I thought my sponsor put him up to it because he told me to read it, I think, on average about once a month over the last year. And, you know, the whole time I was thinking about talking about this, I was thinking there's probably nothing I knew more about than the triangle of self-obsession. That's how I live my life, most of my life, and I'm trying to change that. But, you know, I couldn't help but think, too, I don't know how many cabin fevers I've been to, and never thought that I would be one to stand up or sit up here and speak. And, you know, assessing that really is, I don't know what I'm going to share, you know, that's different than what I haven't heard in the room before. So if it all sounds familiar, it probably should. If I'm saying something you never heard before, it's probably a lie. So, but, you know, I've had the opportunity to speak in treatment centers and in the prison, And I guess I was a little more nervous about this because I know that people that are here today know a little more about recovery than some of the people I've spoke with before. And a lot of people here know me pretty well. So, a lot of the things I talk about with how I've changed, some people can call me on that. That, what I've talked about that has changed or works, it does work, but I don't always remember to do it. Of course, having read this, I could probably quote it more than I know about the actual literature here, but the paragraph that always strikes me odd is the second one. And I don't usually quote literature, but I'm going to go ahead and read this. It says, most children, through experiences over a period of time, come to realize that the outside world cannot provide all their wants and needs. They begin to supplement what is given to them with their own efforts. As their dependency on people, places, and things decreases, they begin to look to themselves more and more. They begin to be more self-sufficient and learn that happiness and contentment come from within. Most continue to mature. They recognize and accept their strengths, weaknesses, and limitations. At some point, they usually seek the help of a power greater than themselves to provide the things they cannot provide for themselves. For most people, growing up is a natural process. And it seemed like every time I read that, I just don't understand it. They might as well wrote that in Latin or Greek or, something, that I just wouldn't have a clue about, because I never knew that someone could develop like that, because I sure didn't develop that way. The way I developed and survived all my life, even before I picked up and through my using and even into recovery, was what this pamphlet talks about, the triangle of self-obsession. Being trapped in resentment, the anger, and the fear. I agree with what the literature says, that all the defects that I do have, all my defects of character, stem out of those three things. And it's usually about not getting what I want or what I think I need. And, I was kind of, as I was thinking about this and what I might say today, I was kind of looking back at how those things played a part in my life, like the resentment. It affected me even physically. I carried my resentments out to the point that, it affected me physically with like the stress levels that I carried through my life, high blood pressure, medical conditions that came from that. And, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it just ran me down. I spent all my time obsessing on, things that had done me wrong or reasons that I couldn't do what I needed to do or wanted to do in my life. It was always someone else's fault. And, I've had to take a look at, there's a lot of things in my life I expect from other people or want from other people, but, it comes down to that point that usually when I'm not willing to accept another alternative or a different answer than what I'm wanting, is that I'm just making selfish demands of those around me. As far as the anger, I always tried to control situations. I knew what I wanted, so I knew how to, or I thought I could manipulate the outcome. I usually manipulated the situation, but I very rarely ever got what I wanted anyway. What I did gain, was under false pretenses. It always had that shadow of control over it. What I got, I never got because people wanted it to give to me. I forced them into it. And I lived in a lot of fear, and, best way I put it, it kept me stuck on stupid. I couldn't take risks. I couldn't reach out and do things that I wanted to do. I couldn't achieve goals. One of the big ones I always had on that was, I never had an education, and it was always someone else's fault. My parents didn't have the money. I had a job. I had responsibilities that I had to fulfill, that I just couldn't go out and, do what I felt that I needed to do for myself. And taking an honest assessment of that, it was just my fear of reaching out to the unknown and doing something different. And, as far as for me to come up against and do a major, even a minor change in my life, let alone major changes such as changing that way of life, it's usually got to get to the point that it's just too painful to do anything different but change. And there's a reading in the Just for Today, which is my favorite one, that talks about when the pain of staying the same outgrows the fear of change, will change. And, I think I was well into my recovery, or definitely well into my clean time. I don't know if we'll call it recovery, but I'd been abstinent for a long time before I even wanted to embrace the fact that I could change. And I guess, I kind of broke down the resentment, anger, and fear in the pamphlet. It talks about the opposite of those, the acceptance, the love, and the faith. And, tried to parallel, what I've experienced through Narcotics Anonymous that has helped me to begin to overcome those anyway. I still struggle with some of them, but with the resentment and the acceptance of what's actually happened, I think the fourth step probably played the biggest part in that. And, what I try to work with other people and explain to them is, in all the resentments I've got a part in it. Even if I was honestly wronged by someone, a big part of what I carry in my resentments is I never knew how to resolve those issues. I could never go to someone and say, you wronged me. I just carried it with me, and I kept it inside, and I play it over and over again. And working on through the steps, in the 8th and 9th step, being able to sit down and look at all the people that I wanted forgiveness from and all the things that I've done, it allowed me to be more forgiving of them. I couldn't hold someone against owing me $20 when I stole $50 from them. And when you balance it all out, I need a lot more forgiveness than I have to offer a lot of other people. And I guess the one I kind of got hung up on when I was thinking about this was the aspect of love versus anger. And I guess for the lack of a better resource, I went to the dictionary, and we were kind of laughing about this earlier. And, I went and I looked up love, and I guess the one thing I saw in there that kind of applied to what I was thinking here today was just the unselfish, loyal concern for another. And, whether I'm expressing that in a personal relationship, a working relationship, and probably the hardest area in my life, with another person in the program. I've had to look at that, and I think the other probably suggested reading I've had the most in the last year was 12th Tradition. And, that was the thing I was wanting to read before this weekend started, was how to love the person even though you don't accept the actions. And that helps me too. That allows me to separate the person away from the perceived wrong anyway. Whether or not I've been wronged or not, I'll act out against the person or hold ill feelings. And whenever I can separate the person from the action, then I've got a lot more capacity to forgive someone. And probably the hardest lesson I've had to learn is faith. And that was something I could only learn through experience. If I show up and I do my best in a given situation, honestly do my best, then I've learned that God will do the rest for me. I don't always get what I want. I guess that's part of breaking that triangle. I don't get what I want, but I've always gotten what I needed. And if I can sit back and I can take an honest assessment of what's going on in my life, I always have what I need. Most of all, I have a higher power that does care for me, hasn't turned his back on me. I've got friends I can reach out to. And most of all, I've got a relationship with myself. I believe in myself. If I set a goal that's worthy and I'm willing to do the effort, I'm usually going to make it. I had no concept of that when I got here. Everything was someone else's fault. If I didn't have something, it wasn't due to what I didn't do. And, today I can say I've had some interesting things happen in the last year that definitely were against what I wanted. Reaching out mainly to the people in NA have got me through it. No matter what, I don't have to use over it. Some days that's all I've got to hold on to. But another thing I was thinking, I guess, as this was coming up, I always hear people talk about when you have a foot in yesterday and a foot in tomorrow, you piss all over today. And I can see some truth to that too, but I've got another way of looking at that too. When it comes to the past, I've got to get a good grasp on that, and getting a good grasp on the future. If I can get a good grasp on those, then I can look today right in the eye and see it for what it is. I personally believe I have to have goals for the future. I don't want to dodge that responsibility. And if I don't set those, I can't live today to its fullest. But that's all I got. I'll pass. Thanks.
Very nice, Bill. Thank you very much. Chairperson's chair, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And without further ado, to take up the rest of the whole hour, don't worry, we'll let you change your pants later on after that one, is Michelle L. Singing.
My name's Michelle, and I'm a recovering addict. Can we just have a moment of silence for the still suffering addict in and out of this room before I start to share? I really appreciate that. I didn't make any notes today. And I appreciate the committee asking me to speak today on this topic. And I did the same thing when they called me to ask me to speak on this. You know, I've been taught not to say no, and so I said yes, and then they said, this is what the topic is, and I laughed and said, God's got a sense of humor, doesn't he? But anyway, you know, this is really a very powerful IP. And, you know, and I've read it a couple times this week, and it's really funny because my fiance was looking for one of these to read, and it's like there's none of these in the meetings around St. Charles because it is such a powerful IP, and a lot of us are really caught up in the triangle of self-obsession. And the thing to me that I really get out of this is we didn't know how to grow up and to deal with life on life's terms. You know, and the thing is I got angry about those things, and I got resentful because I couldn't do those things like I was supposed to do. And, you know, in coming to Narcotics Anonymous, I have to put away those things and be totally, you know, willing to do whatever it takes. And it really, you know, and you go through steps, I feel like, as you're here, you know, and layers come off. And, you know, when you first get here, you're willing to do a lot of things. And then you're here a while, and you sometimes think that, you know, you get in kind of a little bit of a pattern, and you do the same thing over and over again. And then you get to these different kinds of things in your recovery, and so you've got to try new things, and you've got to be willing to take suggestions, and you've got to be willing to reach out again, you know? And that's not always easy for us. You know, the resentment thing is, you know, the resentment and the anger and the fear. I mean, and that's what it talks about here, and that's the triangle of the self-obsession, and that all of these defects of character are forms of these three reactions, and that the self-obsession is the heart of the insanity. You know, and one of the things that I really wanted when I got here was I wanted that insanity to stop, you know, and the insanity has continued even in recovery. And that's why I think it's so important when it talks about on the back, the negative and the positive, and how to, you know, with the resentment, it's about just accepting. You know, it's about accepting people where they're at, where I, in my recovery, am at today. And like, there have been lots of times in my recovery that I think that I should be here. And the reality was I was here, you know. To accept, you know, things outside of us that we have no control over. You know, to know when I can do something and when I can't. To know when it's time for my higher power to come in and for me to really depend on that. To know when I need to ask other people for help. The anger, one of the things with anger that is always, when I was a little girl, we weren't allowed to show anger. I mean, because I was brought up where it's like it was all about what everybody else thinks. So you couldn't show that anger. You had to always be this little, well, for me it had to be, you know, you had to be this little perfect little doll, and it was like you had to do the right thing as far as what everybody else thought. So the anger was something that I just really stuffed down inside of me for years and years and years. And when I got clean, it came out, and I didn't know what to do with that crap. You know, and I'm so grateful today to know, because you guys loved me when I got here, and I couldn't love myself when I got here. I didn't love myself. And just that you guys just embrace me, you know, and love me right where I was at. You know, and if you've ever heard me talk before or speak, when I first got here, I thought I was black. You know, because that's what I wanted to be. I was there, and, you know, I have biracial children, and it was just all about all of that, you know, and you guys just love me. And I am so grateful for that, you know, and it's really okay for me to be who I am today, whatever it was. And we were talking just right before this started, and it's like, because this gentleman was sitting next to me, he said, well, you know, I've seen you around for a while, and, you know, and he said, you had on, and he said what outfit I had on, and I said, you know, I can be a chameleon. I can be anything that I thought you wanted me to be, whatever it was, you know. I can be the biker woman. I can be the mom. I'm fixing to be a grandmom. I've tried to be black. I've tried to be white. You know, it's like whatever I thought that you wanted me to be, that's what I tried to be for you to accept me. And today I know it's just about accepting myself wherever I'm at today, whatever I'm in, whatever, you know, phase I'm going through, and anything that I've got going on in my life. And the love part, you know, is a lot about forgiving myself. You know, I remember when I was working on one of my steps, and Pam was my sponsor at the time, and she said, you know, I really want you to work on this forgiveness thing. And it's like, you know, and it's real easy for me to forgive other people, you know, and it was about forgiving myself, especially in relationships. And a lot of it was about because I stayed so long in some abusive relationships. And it was about forgiving myself and letting go and loving myself and knowing that it took all of those things for me to get to where I'm at today. You know, and I'm grateful for all those things. I know that it's real difficult when we go through these steps and we're really dealing with some issues, you know, from our past that come up. And that shit comes up. And unless we're working on that, and we think, you know, sometimes, a lot of times we think that when we get to a certain spot and we've worked on something that we're done with it. And the deal is not. I mean, it may come up again and again and again and again. Like in a relationship, I have real trust issues because of shit that I did in my past. It's not about him, it's not what he does, it's about what I have done and what I put on myself, you know, and in forgiving myself, you know, and in the love character and in having faith that my higher power is going to be there and it's all going to be okay, then the fear is diminished. You know, my sponsor this year is like, we have talked a lot about the faith deal because I have such fear of people walking out of my life. And you know, we all have had that. We've been in relationships and people have just like walked away because we are a little insane at times. Imagine that. But it's scary, you know, it's really scary sometimes to put your heart out there. Okay, what's going to happen now? But just to have that blind faith, you know, that it's going to be okay. That no matter what, you know, and today I know that no matter what, higher power is going to be there and walk with me, whatever comes up into my life. You know, and I'm so grateful that I stayed around long enough to get that message, to know that no matter what, as long as I keep doing the right thing for the right reason, you know, it all works out. And it's about, you know, it's about coming to these meetings and listening to people that have got experience and have been here. And I am so grateful to the people that got here before I did, you know, and opened these doors up and kept them open, you know. And sometimes I feel like we forget to say thank you because recovery is so readily available to us today. I think the very last line in this pamphlet really has a very, very major effect because it says, we must break the triangle of self-obsession. We must grow up or die. You know, and that is such a powerful statement in there because that's reality. You know, and one of the things that I've always said ever since I've been here is, you know, this is about life or death to me. I don't have time for any more games. This is my last resort. And it says this in this pamphlet. You know, this is the last place. This is all I have left. If you flip that chair up underneath it, it's got my name on it. Because I paid my dues to be here. You know, I sacrificed with my family and my children and all of that shit and did all that crap that I don't need to go out there and do it again. You know, and the thing is you don't have to relapse. You know, that's not a requirement here. You can come in here one time and stay, and you don't ever have to go back out there and do it ever again. And it's a choice. It's a daily choice. Do I want to stay clean today? And what do I need to do that? You know, and that's part of, you know, all of this triangle of shit that goes on in our heads. You know, what am I willing to do today to stay clean one more day? To like keep doing this so that I get this miracle that has been like so beautifully placed into my hands. You know, what am I going to do with that? Am I willing to reach out and say, you know, I just don't know how to do this. Tell me, share with me. What worked for you? And maybe what worked for you is not going to work for me, but the thing is, it opens up my mind to be able to hear that. You know, it opens me up to suggestions. You know, just like, you know, not everybody's higher power is the same in here. And you know, I just think that is so awesome. Because for me personally, I think that it's like an organized religion. I mean, they put God in this little box. And the God of my understanding is so big and so awesome, you know, and he shows his face to us however we can receive that. You know, and that's such a blessing to have that kind of open-mindedness to be able to see that, you know. What a miracle just to be part of this, to be about the love, you know, to accept things and not like feel like I gotta like get in here and like do this or do that anymore and all that insane crap that I had to do to think, you know, that for it to be okay. You know, and to know that it's not all about all of the things that we did before we got here, and that I don't have to blame anybody anymore. You know, that I don't have to like hold that shit inside of me, because for me personally, that just eats me up inside, and I cannot afford to have those negative thoughts, because that is the enemy to me, you know. It's just, it is so. I was talking to somebody earlier, and it's like, you know, it is like, because I asked him how he was doing. He's like, well, I'm okay. You know, and I'm like, no, really, tell me how you are. And he's like, really, I'm awesome. He said, but, you know, if you tell people that, they just kind of like freak on it. But it's like, I mean, you know, when we do that, it sets a fire. And we need to encourage each other, and we need to get excited about this thing, because, you know, there are people out there dying every day from this disease. And I need to like be a help to you, not to harm you in any way. And I have to look at that. Am I part of the solution, or am I part of the problem? You know, and I was a part of the problem a long time before I got here. And now, with the tools that I've been given, I want to be part of the solution. You know, I want to be about love, and I want to have that totally blind faith, and I want to accept. Not that I'm perfect at it, and I'm working on it, you know, and that's the awesome thing. It's like, you know, I know that my higher power is not done with me yet, but I know I'm a whole lot better than I was when I walked through the doors, you know. I am so much better, and I'm so much happier, and I have, at times, have a little peace inside of me, you know. You know, and that's all I really want. I wanted some serenity. I wanted some peace of mind. I wanted just to be able to be okay. And there have been a lot of days, even in recovery, I'm not comfortable in my own skin. You know, and you guys love me anyway, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's like, you know, I was talking to somebody else earlier out there in the hallway, and we were talking about how I was asking him what he was doing. He was telling me, he's like, you know, he said, can you believe it? They're like, they got me doing this and doing this. And he said, they really haven't figured out who I am, have they yet? And that's the really awesome thing. I mean, you know, I'm my own worst enemy. But because of you people and me allowing you to get to know me, that you can see those things in me and tell me about that, because I need to hear that, because I am like in my mind saying, some days you're a piece of shit still today, you know. I mean, and that's just reality for me because I'm not well yet and I still have the disease. Sometimes the committee gets very large and goes off in my head, you know, and that's part of all of that triangle too, you know, just being absorbed into that and getting out and like going to meetings and listening to the newcomers when they come in the room, you know, and hearing them share about what's going on in their lives and, you know, all the misery and the insanity and all the things that they're dealing with. You know, I can find gratitude in that because I'm not there today. And that keeps me coming here because I don't want to have to deal with that shit again personally, you know. I don't want to lose all that shit again and worry about all that stuff. You know, and I'm grateful for that. And I know that I helped those when I first got here because I had all kinds of shit going on, you know. I was going through bankruptcy and a divorce and, you know, my kids were with me, but I was insane. You know, and I'd moved from one area to another area and, you know, I'm just grateful for all that. I know that the God of my understanding has chosen each and every one of us, you know, to carry a message, you know, and that is the big thing to me today. Am I carrying a good message? Am I being productive? Am I really where my higher power wants me to be, and am I doing the right thing for the right reason, you know? And that keeps me in check an awful lot of time because I do want to be part of the solution. You know, I can remember there were some people back when I got clean and they had more time than I did and they'd do some horrendous shit. And I'm grateful for this. And I'd be like, oh my God, when I get that amount of time, I do not want to be there. And it really motivated me to work on some shit in my life. And if that's all I do for somebody else, right on, you know, I'm happy. Because, you know, if you don't want to grow up to be like me, then work steps, call your sponsor all the time, you know, go to a lot of meetings. You know, and I've done a lot of that because I thought when I got here that I'd just work these steps really diligently and I'd eventually get well. And I did it very diligently the first 10 years of my recovery. And then I figured out, you know, a lot of this shit happens in God's time and not my time, and it'll be all right. And, you know, just slow down and breathe once in a while. And because I was one of them coke addicts, so it's like, you know, I was always like into the zoom, 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 zoom shit. So that's why I wanted to work my program. And, you know, and I'm grateful for that because I have worked through a lot of issues and come to terms with a lot of things. But no matter how long I stay here, there are things that come up in me that I still need to work on. You know, like in my relationship, you know, I've wanted a ring for a long time. And I get really impatient. Really, really, really impatient. And I'm like, to my boyfriend, you know, I need the ring, I need the ring, I need the ring. And my sponsor, I talk to my sponsor about it, you know, often. She'd be like, Michelle, just, you know, talk to your higher power about it, write about it, let it go, have some faith. I'm not good at that. But I finally got the ring. But I was, you know, definitely addict when it came to that. And my behavior was not healthy, shall we say. That's a nice word. It's not healthy. You know, and that's part of that triangle. I mean, I want when I want it, which was yesterday. You know, and so once again, I was not accepting where I was at and where the relationship was. I didn't accept where my higher power had me, you know. So, you know, and there were a lot of times that I really had to, I copped resentments in that area, you know, and I would really have to be focused on the love and just being okay with where we were in this relationship. You know, just having faith that when it was the right time, those things would happen. You know, and that's like, even like with my children, there's been a lot of times like that, you know, just that they are well and things are going on right and accepting where they're at. And you know, through this program, I've been able to do that. You know, accepting sponsees. right where they're at and loving them, and that's really my job as a sponsor is just to love my sponsees right where they're at, give them a little guidance, work the steps with them, talk to them when they call, those kind of things. It's not about me taking control of their life and saying, you do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and if you don't follow a suggestion, right on. That's cool too. I can accept that. I can accept a lot of things today because of Narcotics Anonymous. I recently changed jobs in the last year, and I'd been doing the same job for a long time, 11 years. And that's all new territory, and it was about just accepting, first of all, that when I got into this new position, I didn't know squat. Okay, and I'm not one to not know squat. Because I want to know it all yesterday, just like everything else, But just to accept that and to have faith that, things will all work out all right in all of this, and to go forward and just to know that, once again, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. The miracle is if you stay around, and it says this in this pamphlet also, if you stay around and we learn to practice these principles in all our affairs, a miracle happens. But it doesn't say if we just stay here, a miracle happens. It says if we learn to practice these principles in all of our affairs. A lot of people think that they can just come in here and stay and all these miracles are going to happen. But it's about practicing these principles. And in doing that, then you're able to see those miracles. And there are tons of miracles. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on about miracles that have happened in my life. And most of them are sitting in these rooms, and I can look at the faces, and they are miracles, Just awesome miracles that have touched my life, and I've touched their lives. And, it's just so good. I really look forward to coming to this convention this weekend because I knew I was going to see a lot of people from home. And, having moved to a different area, it's really tough sometimes to not have people there that I got clean with and know all my shit, and saw me and watched me, to get here and to go through this and this and this and this and know how I grew up in this fellowship. But, and I go through that shit a lot of times, and sometimes I've gotten a little resentful about those that have been around the St. Louis area for all their clean time, but it's like, that's about acceptance too, accepting that I'm there, and I chose to be there, and I have just, this last year I've really come into growing and loving the women in my area, and they are really coming out of the woodwork, and it's really, really, really awesome, because there are some really awesome women in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. And one of the things that I've been taught since I got here is the men will pat your ass and the women will save your ass, as a female. And the thing is I knew how to work a man to the nth most. But I need the women to call me on my shit, to love me right where I'm at, to teach me how to be a woman. I don't need to be a slut no more. I don't need to be a hoe no more, but to be a woman. And I'm grateful for that. Because that's one of the things that I wanted to come in here and to quit doing, I wanted to grow up to be this woman, that is about love and goodness and kindness and, that can accept other human beings as we walk into the room. No matter what kind of baggage you're carrying. And that's another really nice thing, too, about moving to an area is I don't have all those people's baggage that they've had all these years. I can just accept them right where they're at. And that's a neat thing, because a lot of times we can accept that newcomer when they walk into the room with all their shit. But sometimes, we struggle with accepting the old-timer with their shit. And the reality is we need to be accepted just as much as the newcomer needs to be accepted. We still have shit going on in our lives just because we've been here a couple of 24 hours. doesn't mean that we're well. You know, and that is such a blessing to be able to see that too, you know, that it takes all of us, whether you got 2 days or 22 years, you know. I can learn from all of you. I can accept you right where you're at. I can love you right where you're at. And I can have faith that you're going to get better, you know, as long as you know, do these things in all of your affairs. You know, and what can I do to help you? I mean, that's really an awakening that I had is in one of those readings, and it says, and what do you want to do about your problem and how can we help? Because it is such a we program. How can we help you? How can we encourage you? How can we uplift you? How can we give to you what we were so freely given? How can we help you to understand it? What's it going to take to help you? Is it a visual? Is it being there? Is it talking on the phone? Is it picking you up and taking you to a meeting? Is it going to a convention with you? Is it just some days just smiling at you across the table? Is it if you're having a hard time and people are like busting you out because of your service work and somebody's taking your inventory? Do I need to get on that bandwagon? Nope. I need to love you right where you're at, encourage you, and be there for you. Acceptance is just, when I first got clean, I lived with a guy, and that's what he used to say all the time. Just accept it and go on. And be like, oh, I didn't want to hear that at all, because I did not want to accept a lot of things. You know, and today it's much easier. It's much easier to accept with the faith and the love. You know? It's like I know that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I don't always like it, you know? But it's okay, because I have faith that my higher power is going to take me wherever I need to go and to walk with me there. You know, and there have been times that, you know, people have let me down. And it talks about that in here too, because we have these expectations, you know, because I have some pretty horrendous expectations, because that's kind of the way my family has always done to me. So, you know, to get out of that way, to just get out of that way and to be just loving and kind and caring and accepting, you know, that's just really, it's such a simple thing if you really think about it. You know, that's the really cool thing about NA. It's like, it's just really simple little things, and we try to complicate the hell out of everything. You know, it's like twist it and do this, and well, what about this, or what about this, or, you know. And it's just, it's real simple, okay? So you have a resentment, so the opposite of that is acceptance. And if you have anger, then what, you know, then just have love. You know, if you have fear, you know, have some faith. If you fear something and you walk into it and just know, no matter what you do, when you put your foot down, that your higher power's got ground underneath there for you to walk on. You know? That's not difficult. That's not a difficult concept at all. Just that it's going to be all right. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other and breathe. And that's all I have to share. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. They don't make these long enough for us older people. 2:15. We do have some time, and I don't want anybody to get into the triangle of self-possession like resentment about not getting picked. I'm going to take it to about 10 after. Somebody want to come up here and share their experience? Go right ahead. Good deal. Good. Next person, raise your hand. You pick them, okay?
I'll pick the next one. I'm Pam. I'm an addict. You know, I don't know. When I was in college and I didn't read the book, I got the Cliff Notes. It didn't help completely if I didn't read the book, but it was an overview. It gave me the plot. It gave me some significant things to hang on to, And this is one of the pamphlets that I use in tandem with another pamphlet, Narcotics Anonymous pamphlet, as Cliff Notes when I have a problem, when I'm going crazy, when I can't figure out what's wrong, but my mind is going around in circles. I use Triangle of Self-Obsession and Self-Acceptance together. And I have a copy of those by my bedside and a copy of those stuck in my basic text. And when I'm going crazy, I read Triangle of Self-Obsession front to back. The IPs are not that long. They are in big print. They're not little print like the book. And I find if I read that, I know what's wrong. By the end of the pamphlet, I know what's wrong. I know if it's resentment, anger, or fear. I've usually identified in my mind more of a clear view of where it's coming from. And then the answer is always, for me, self-acceptance. And I'm not ever going to get there totally. I have the disease of addiction. I'm a human being with the disease of addiction. But I got a goal, man. And the pamphlet of self-acceptance is about what we do and how we work. You know, the experience of those addicts that wrote that. All of us, you know, wrote that. All the addicts that wrote that, sharing with me how we strive to become more accepting of ourselves. So I wanted to share that. It's a real handy tool, and you know, I don't have to go overboard and like read my basic text or anything to do it. So anyway, no one's laughing. No one, you know, you all just study your basic text and don't just read it at book studies like me, I guess. Oh well. I have a favorite bumper sticker. It's Visualize World Peace. And the reason why that's my favorite bumper sticker is that when anyone reads that bumper sticker, they can't help but for a second to try to visualize world peace. And in my belief system, with my higher power, any energy that is placed towards something goes out from there and feeds that idea. I have a friend who has a long-standing friend for years and years that I've been in close contact with for the last 10 or 11 years, whose Billy Button birthday is today. And he is serving a sentence of life without parole in a maximum security prison in the state of Missouri. And if you guys could give him a thought today, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Lori, and I'm an addict. Hi. I just had to say, I used to have this poster, and it said, visualize world peace. So anytime I ever heard of world peace, I'd go to world peas in a blender. So it's a trip, because once you get something in your mind, it's hard to get it out, and that's that obsession thing. Also, Michelle was sharing. I think in pictures. That's just what I do. I think in pictures. And when you read that one line of, we have to grow up or die, I remember seeing this movie where this kid and his family were in a trailer, and the trailer went down the cliff, and his parents were in the trailer, and they died. And this kid was in the middle of, I think, Wyoming in the national forest, and he had to survive, and he didn't know how. And there was this man, this older man, who was going on a journey to die, because he knew he was terminal and he was dying. And so he wanted to get to the point in this forest where and at one point there was all these wolves. He had been watching this kid, and the kid didn't know he was there, and the kid was just beside himself. He didn't know or how, didn't have any ability to do anything, just like I did when I got here, you know. Anyway, so he was watching this kid, and he shows himself, and at one point these wolves are after this kid, and the man is standing at the top of the cliff, and the kid's trying to come up, and he's like, help me, help me, and he's like, no, pull, and he forced the kid to climb up that cliff, and that wolf was right at his heels, and he got to the top, he's like, why didn't you could have reached down and pulled me out? He's like, no, because you have to do it, I'm not going to be here longer. I'm not going to be here that much longer, and he knew he was going to die, so it was like, that's what, it really hit me. It's like, we got to grow up. We got to pull. We got to do it. Because if we depend on our sponsors to pull us out, we'll die, and it's something I've been struggling with the whole codependency thing. How much do you give to your sponsee? How much do you reach down and pull them out? It's not, again, that chicken and the egg thing. If you help the chicken out of the egg, that chicken will die. It's got to do the footwork. It's got to do the footwork, and that's the same with these steps. We got to carry the message, and the only way that we can carry the message is by doing it ourselves. And that's it. Thank you.
My name is Jeff, and I'm an addict, and I felt compelled to share about this thing. I'm a visual learner. I only know one way to do this thing, and that is visually. So I think of the triangle of self-obsession. I kind of picture, okay, here's one spot where there'd be obsession, pick them all, and just do this triangle. And I get stuck in this box, or this triangle. To me, it's a box. I'm a junkie, and I really don't know the difference between a fucking triangle and a box. Anyway, and I bounce around through here, okay? And all my life, all through high school, that's what I did. 1980 was my 5th year of high school. Hadn't had a freaking clue. And, I decided, okay, I'm trapped in this triangle, not realizing, now I know what it was. I had all the friggin' answers, and I quit school, and I tried to join the service. And, not, knowing all the answers then, I wish I knew what the questions were now, because I have no freaking clue. But I've learned through this program now that I need to share either my obsession, my fear, or my anger. And in order for you to share your experience, strength, and hope with me, to give you an opportunity to recover at the same time. See, I think it's a big circle. It's a real big cycle here. I help you, you help me, we help them, they help us. And just keep on going and going and going. If we don't open our mouths, and I don't want to give anybody resentment, people who walked out and, didn't want to share or anything like that, I feel robbed because I hear what they had to say. It might be some dumb shit, but, at least it'll get my mind moving. Because I don't want to stay trapped in this box, see? And sometimes I'm in this anger mode, and I really don't know what it is. I really don't know. So a lot of times what I do is I get home, I put it on a list because I'm going through those, oh my God, what's going on, too much coffee days. And I just start writing down stuff until I come up with this, oh shit, here's my list. Here's all the things that are kind of screwing with my mind, keep me trapped in this triangle. And you know what? That's God's. And I keep my stuff over here, okay? And I throw that sucker away, Now I can do it a little bit more mentally, most of the time. I know I want to stay stuck anymore, and a lot of times I do stay stuck. It's scary. It really is scary, and we did this old-timer, new-timer thing over there, and sometimes I don't get the opportunity to just say that I'm hurting, because I let other people talk. And it's a shame that way. But sometimes I do hurt. And, oh, shit, I'm going to fucking start bawling. My sponsor died last year. And not the first one. But I'm monopolizing this time, and forgive me about this, but here we go, God. Next week, God willing, and nobody clap, 18 years, sometimes I don't have a fucking clue. I don't have a freaking clue of what I'm going through. I'm trapped in that fear that I don't want to get another sponsor, and I'm okay. I got a resentment that somebody died, and that's not the first time that happened. But I just keep on coming and keep on searching and keep on looking, and I listen a lot. I was graced with the people when I first came in here. Said, "Look, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you can listen twice as hard as you talk." And wait till you get 90 days. We'll be happy to hear your story, because right now you don't know jack shit. And I still go on that present. If I don't know what's going on, I just sit there and listen and try to listen as much as I possibly can and try to figure it out and look at this God thing once in a while and say, is he taking care of it or not? Is he taking care of it or not? And then I got to go, God dang, I hope he takes care of it, son. Then, put it out of your mind, And, like the sponsor thing. And I'm blessed with somebody who I don't use as much as I really need to. And that's for me. But right now, I don't think I have much fear. I don't have much anger. And with resentments, it's always better to give than to receive. So I try to go on that principle. You know when I say, fuck them, they can't take a joke. But anyway, no, seriously. We've got 10 minutes left, and I see the way I had you focused. I was going to cry, and I was just like, over this way. What a friggin' junkie. Oh, my God. Anyway, we've got at least 10 minutes, thanks for letting me get that out. Somebody raise their hand. I'm going to start picking on somebody. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead, sir. Right on the end. Yeah, you. No, get up here. Get up here, John. Come on. We ain't got much time. Come on. Come, sit, be merry. Hey, John. I need you.
I'm John. I'm an addict. Hi, John. I've never been up here before, and I don't like it.
Better to give than to receive.
Yeah. Oh, self-obsession. I get that a lot. Get the old committee in the head thing going, and it's sometimes takes a while to get out of it, but not always. Like this is going now, and I don't know. I get the thing going that I don't really, not really qualified to be up here to share, and but I don't know. I guess we all get that, don't we? Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
I know. But I don't know. I'm just glad that I'm able to be in this process and moving forward, and know that there is stuff that can be worked on, and that I see a lot of miracles out there that it does work, and it's worked for me too. And I got a great family and 2 wonderful kids, a wonderful wife that very supportive. I'm just happy that we can have the opportunity to spend a weekend together and not be out there using and ignoring each other and shit. But that's all I got.
Go ahead, dude. Dear brave soul. Nice job, John.
Hi, everybody. I'm Martina. I'm a newcomer.
Me too.
I was looking at this resentment, and it took me a while to figure out what this self-obsession was. Then I heard it. It was me telling my husband, as long as I make all the money and pay all the bills, and I can smoke all the shit I want to smoke, I ain't hurt nobody but myself. And I attack the kids the same way. My oldest daughter, I bought you that car. As long as I got money, you all have shit to say as long as I'm giving it to you. And somebody said, Because I got angry because they telling me about you hurting yourself, you doing this, that, and the other. And I thought, no, it's because I'm not giving you all that money, But as long as I'm giving you money, you're happy. So I'm angry now. I'm throwing this in my husband's face that you don't even have to pay the bills. You just keep your check. I'll pay that bills and get high. And the fear that really came about was that they were right. When I really ran out of money, and they kept saying it's not the money. Somebody said maybe because they just love you and they want their mama. And when I ran out of the money, my husband kept loving me anyway. My kids kept loving me anyway. And the only thing that made me accept the fact that I was an addict and that I was killing myself is when I laid in the bed after being gone 3 or 4 days and my husband said, I don't want to have to bury you. And that was it. I had to take a look at myself. Why do I think I'm so damn important that I'm doing so much for everybody else that they weren't going to survive without me or my money? Because I had a business. I don't no longer have that business. I no longer have that money. But I still got my husband. I still have my life. And I still have my kids. And if it wasn't for the brave people in this program that made me take a look at myself, I wouldn't be here today. My eyes, myself, the perfect me, clean house, clean drug addict. I didn't go to the dope house dirty. I went clean in my car. And I'm trying to help this other addict by giving her toilet paper out of my house. I was doing these good things, so don't look at the bad things that I do. I'm very positive that this program works. It's accepting people of authority telling me what to do that could have destroyed me. Fear that they knew more than me or they were putting me down by correcting me. Jealous and angry of people that were beautiful. Resentments against my husband having an affair with a young white girl and having a baby by after we've been married for 5 years. Someone said, would you have been this man if she was black? I didn't know that until like a month ago when a black woman did approach my husband. I've been carrying this anger around all these years against women, white women, and they hadn't done it, just that one girl, and she was a victim. Couldn't have found out she was just a dollar bet between my husband and another man. My feelings was hurt, my pride was hurt, But it's not about that anymore. It's about, like they tell us, learning to love myself first, but respecting myself and doing what God wants us to do, what He wants me to do, Stop being so damn selfish all the time. Stop thinking you're so self-important, Give what I've given you to give away, to learn to love other people, And it's the program that's taught me that. I didn't know how to hug. I thought that was nasty. But I didn't think turning the trick was nasty. But now I know better. I've learned a lot of things, being a newcomer. This is my first convention. And I woke up this morning, my roommate said, how you feel? I said, I can't stop crying. And I have not been able to stop crying. I've never felt so much love, and no one has asked me for anything. Everything I've gotten has been for free. Now I can see what a triangle can turn around. The resentments, the anger, the fear that you all accepting me for who I am. You don't even know me. And something I'm gonna have to work on is this obsession, this self-obsession, because it's gonna destroy me. And learn to accept things that come to me free, without thinking I have to give something to someone else. I'm just grateful to be here. And that's all I have.
Nice way to end it. You have a nice day closing. Where'd Beal go? Did we not stop that silly laser thing? The recording. My name is Jeff and I'm an addict. I'm sticking around. I've already said what an addict on my left and an addict on my right, I shall not fall. Let the circle represent what we can do for, what we can do together, we can't do alone, or whatever it is. Anyway, you sure you take us out?
Yeah. And then we no longer have to bow our heads in shame. We can walk with our heads high. Do a third step prayer.
Guide me in my recovery. Show me how to live clean. Keep coming back. It works and you work it. God, go.
Just keep coming back. Spin on that end, you know.
So work it, what'd you say, so?
Yeah, keep coming back. Work it. It works when you work it.